flawless is especially acute for girls. Let's bring in psychiatrist and former Miss Laguna Beach, Dr. Yalda Safai. Dr. Safai, it's great to have you on. I want to put this up. This is from the New York Post, right? The New York Post headline says, "We were Victoria's Secret models. Everything you saw was fake." It goes on to say Jasmine Tukes, 32, and Josephine Scriver, 30, graced Victoria's Secret's catalogs for years, but even they could not recognize themselves at times while looking at their own images. I wonder why they're coming out now and saying, you know, maybe this was too much. Maybe the phoniness needs to be toned down a little bit. What are your thoughts on this?
So they're in their 30s now, and one of them said now that she's in her 30s, she looks back at her 20s and realizes how wrong this was. At the time, you know, she was at an impressionable age. She thought she had to look flawless and perfect for people to like her. But now that she's older and much more mature, looking back, she's saying that was ridiculous.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have a 22 and a 19-year-old daughter, and we were talking about this during the break. And, you know, social media is big with all these kids. Social media is really big, and they take pictures, and if they take a bad picture and a friend takes a good picture, they take a bad picture in a group. You know, they joke about it, but you know, it kind of affects them. Is that,
yes.
am I overreacting to that?
No, of course, 100%. So the past 10 years or so, starting at 2012 till now, what we know is the mental health of our youth is deteriorating. More anxiety, more depression, more substance abuse, more suicide attempts. Now, this has happened in the past decade. What happened in 2012? This was the start of everything, when we saw the rapid decline in mental health in our youth. In 2012, Facebook bought Instagram. Yeah. Social media became mainstream. Now, ever since then, the mental health of our youth has been rapidly declining. Now, there's a correlation between, you know, social media use and mental health, but correlation doesn't always imply causation. And up until very recently, we didn't have good studies on this to show whether social media actually caused depression and anxiety and suicide attempts and so have you. One study came out at MIT very recently that looked at the rollout of Facebook across college campuses starting in 2005. So remember, it started with Harvard, then it spread to the other Ivy League schools. They looked at the rollout of Facebook, and then they correlated it with visits to the mental health center at the campus and self-reported depression and anxiety scores. They saw a direct correlation with the rollout of social media on college campuses with the mental health of the youth. So they said that depression went up by 7% and anxiety went up by 20%. So they went on to say that social media caused a rapid. This was the only biggest death study that we have out there done in MIT.
It's compelling. I'm wondering, because you are a big, you're a big fan of these social media influencers doing behind-the-scenes stuff,
100%.
And why is that?
Because I think it's very important to show how much work, time, and energy goes into looking flawless. Right. So, for example, I used to do beauty pageants. We would spend between 3 to 5 hours in the morning getting ready for a photo shoot, correct? And even after that, they would still Photoshop the image. So it still wasn't perfect. Right. And let me tell you something about Photoshop. It is an essential piece of the puzzle when it comes to the fashion industry and beauty industry. Why? Because it helps cultivate a fantasy. Right. We want things we can't have. When we see the image of this gorgeous, beautiful, godlike, flawless model selling something, promoting something, we want to be like this person. We can't. What do? We buy what she's selling, hoping that it'll make us one step closer to looking like her. So the fashion industry knows this. Sure. And it uses human psychology, and it capitalizes on our desire to want what we can't have to sell products, and it works. Yeah, I got to go 15 seconds, but do you think that maybe younger girls should steer clear of social media as much as possible? I think they should limit it as much as possible. It's important for people to highlight behind the scenes just to raise awareness for that very impressionable adolescent period. Yeah. Dr. Safai, great to have you on. Thank you so much. Thank you.